The most important 45 days. That's bold. Give me an idea of what you mean by that.
Well, it's critical. We've never seen something like this, Sean, where basically the U.S. economy, 70% of its consumer has been shut down. And, you hear Janet Yellen talking about shocked at the unemployment figures. We're asking people to stay at home. We're asking people to be unemployed. We've never done anything like this, from an unemployment rolls to as far as stay at home, these work orders, closing businesses, state by state. Some states have done better, and it's a situation where it's a very difficult decision. Do you reopen the economy and risk a second wave of this? Or do you let this go and it creates not a severe recession, but even a depression? And it's almost, we called it like a drop of the bomb type moment, where either way, it's going to hurt a lot of Americans, it's going to hurt a lot of people, and you got to make the decision. And
does this feel like the drop from 2008?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. That's what we talked about. Even like on Channel 13, January 27th, we talked about time to raise some cash, sell some things, don't be greedy. We had no idea back then it was going to be this severe. I mean, we would have said just sell more than just the small caps or emerging markets. But when you really think about this, the market really in the last 2 weeks has rebounded tremendously. And I think that's a gift to anybody that didn't listen in January or February 19th when we hit all-time highs. And now it's a situation where if you're overexposed in a market, you should lighten up. You should lessen your exposure. You should have cash in a position like this, because nobody really knows the answers. Nobody's lived through this. We don't know how long it's going to take. But there's some fallacies. Like, the first set of interviews after January 27th was, when the governments or states were starting to shut down, was this going to cause a recession? I'm going like, are you kidding? No, this is going to cause a recession, definitely. It's just a matter, now technically a definition of recession is 2 down quarters in GDP. But when you shut off 70% of the economy like this, it's not, will it cause a recession? We're in a recession, and it's just a matter of how severe it's going to be. Secondly, is the market ever going to go back to 29,000? Of course it will. It's just a matter of time and how much damage is done. And that's where this reopening is so critical, and where that 45 days is most critical.
And tell me why the 45 days are so important in your mind.
Because if you wait too long, we're going to forget the V-shaped recovery, forget even the U-shape, which we've already, months ago when the market was hitting new highs, and it's not going to be V-shaped recovery. So now you got a market that's bounced up a little bit. We're not going to have V-shape. Unless it's worked to perfection, Sean, it's not going to be a U-shape. So that's going to leave a lot of damage in the stock market, even ahead, even for those that haven't done anything. So you've got a market here where the large cap stocks are down 13% from their all-time highs. Small cap are down 30. So again, if you avoided the small cap, you saved a lot of damage. So now, what do you do for the future? If it's executed properly, you can do this, ride the tide, or hold on, or hang in there, or whatever, a lot of people say. We didn't even do that in 2008. I mean, summer of 2007, we were talking about raising cash and being conservative. The valuations were too high. We were starting to get to stretched valuations here, and then the coronavirus pandemic ceased everything. And
did that right size some people then?
Right size,
meaning, were they too stretched? Were they too highly valued?
Oh yeah. We're seeing that now all over the country. People contacting us. Every quarter they meet with their representative and they rebalance, right? So what they did last quarter is they took out a little bit of large cap and put it in emerging markets, because emerging markets, did poorly. And they felt good. Every 3 months they talk to somebody, an expert knows what they're doing. And to tell you the truth, they're doing the best they can. They're going by the models, right? The problem is when you get in a situation like this, and you have 4 in the last 40 years, so it's not like it's a black swan once in 100 years. Now the pandemic is once in 100, but it's something else each time. And what makes this so severe, it's like 2008, like you asked, in that it's global. And what makes it worse is it's going to be ongoing. Once you recapitalize the banks and flooded the markets with liquidity so that there wasn't that financial panic of, oh, my bank's closing down, is my money market safe? It was just a matter of recovery from overvalued situations, just like 1999 and 1987. But with this, it's lingering, because when we turn on, Governor DeWine's, set to start up May 1st, and that's why 45 days is so critical. When we turn on, if there's a lack of confidence, if there's, a second wave of this, I mean, it's gonna put us back into the 1930 type situation. And that's the interesting thing about the stock market. Last week, it had the best week since 1938. In 1938, the market went up a lot, and then went down 40% from that point. So is this like a 1938 where we're getting a spike and the smart people lighten up a little bit? And if you're overexposed, you should lighten up, in my opinion. Again, everybody's different, but you don't know what's ahead. Or is this like, it was the best week in the NASDAQ since 2008. And by end of 2008, you had 4 months of pain, and then, another good period for 10, 11 years before what created here.
Yeah. What do you tell Joe and Sally Public today? If maybe they're not as savvy in the stock market, what kind of things are you telling them?
Well, lighten up on small caps, lighten up on emerging markets. I mean, see how this has hit the United States. It's been incredible. Can you imagine how these developing countries, how difficult it's going to be for their economies to turn around? We don't even know if ours are. So this, rebalancing where you went more into emerging markets because they did poorly in 2019, I think, you can't go by those models. It's almost like in the beginning when we had these models of deaths and what have you, and then they found out, it's really useless because we're so off target.
Mm-hmm.
I think these old, modern portfolio theory, where my mentor, Sir John Templeton, called it mediocre portfolio theory, because the theory was you have a little bit of everything. So if you went down here in this country or in this asset class, it more than made up for it here. No, in an environment like this, everything goes down except for cash, maybe, gold. I think if you, into this, we talked about owning Amazon and United Parcel Service, companies that out of the pandemic will be stronger than going in. But the S&P 500, there's 40 companies that are travel related, hospitality related, that you would not want to own. So if John Q. Public, they owned a Standard & Poor's 500, I wouldn't want to own those 40 companies. If anything, own what you want, Amazon or, good quality, high net worth, financially strong companies, and avoid the weaker brethren, which will not survive. I mean, energy collapsed today, and it's not even making the news because of COVID, but that's really a sign of how desperate this is on a global basis, and how it's not like 2008, 2009. So, I would say talk to somebody knowledgeable that you feel comfortable with, and make sure that your plan is in accordance with your risk tolerance and your time horizon, and make sure you're getting rewarded for the risk you're taking. Because what we're seeing with clients from the state of Washington to New York, Florida, and Arizona is that they didn't understand the risk, or they thought they were comfortable with rebalancing and that would protect them. And we saw that in '87 when I started in the business. There was a thing called portfolio insurance, and everybody had that, and they took a lot of risk because they said, oh, if the market ever goes down, I'm going to get this return. Well, when portfolio insurance collapsed, all of a sudden, market went down 22% in one day because they thought they had a foolproof mechanism or a safeguard here, and they weren't mitigating risk. And that's the key here, is mitigating risk and knowing what you own.
Yeah. So what do you feel better on? We're headed to a U or a V?
Yeah, I think V is going to be very difficult. I think, and believe me, I'm a positive guy. I'd love to say we're heading into a V and we'll be back at the studio doing our regular weekly shows. But I really don't see that happening. And I think it's going to be rolling in stages with different states. Some states it's going to be much more difficult. I dislike this political situation. I would really like to see the country unite and stand in one like we did with other wars. Because it is like a war. It's like an invisible enemy, and, it's a matter of, now's the time to help, now's the time to stand united and not worry. Let's look at it when we're back to normal, 6 months, 12 months, whatever, but let's not bicker now. Let's do what's right for the country and for Americans.